Hey, Sahara, welcome back to my channel. So I'm going to be talking about Caroline and Stefan from Vampire Diaries. They are my favorite ship, and not of all time, but I do absolutely love them. They're probably one of my favorite ships. They'd probably be in one of my top 20, to be honest. Not entirely sure where, maybe even my top 10. I'll have to map out a list to know for sure where they'll be placed, but I love them, and they're pretty high up on my list. But they're my favorite TVDU ship, the Vampire Diaries universe, and um, I've made several edits of them, and I think I have one or two more planned in my list of edits on my phone, which I hope to get to soonish. I have a lot of edits I want to make, so we'll see. But I also have more Steroline videos planned in the future because I do want to do a top 20 moments between them because there's so many moments and I'm not going to be able to choose just top 10 that I love. And then a video where I have to do a lot of research for, so I am procrastinating because there's other ships I want to do this for, and that's a relationship timeline. So if you're not familiar with those videos I've been doing, I think I've only done a couple so far because they take a lot of research and a lot of time, so it's whenever I can get to it. I'm working on one right now, but basically I talk about their timeline from the very beginning of the show or movie or whatever they're in to the very end. So like they meet in the first episode, so I will do that, and then to what happened, to how their ending play out, and talk about, yeah. So for that I have to watch every single scene, which there is a playlist on YouTube that shows their every scene, so I don't have to go through the entire show and figure out like where the Steroline scenes are. So thankful for that because not every ship has that, which makes it harder. But yeah, so and I have to write down like every little thing, so it takes a lot of time and effort, but I do plan to do that. I have a couple I'm working on first, but I do hope to get us to that soon, and I'll let you guys know. But for this video, I'm going to be talking about why they are the not only the best Vampire Diaries ship, but also the healthiest. Um, so yeah, uh, I might be looking at my phone because I have everything. I have a whole uh for different shows. I have like a bunch of photos that I found based off my favorite character or ships that I really like, and I saved to my phone. So I have a album on my phone of Vampire Diaries pictures, and it's mostly Caroline or Caroline and Stefan. Not gonna lie. But yeah, so I screenshotted some of them that will help make my points about why they're the best ships. So I'll be looking at my phone to see what those points are and share them with you. So um okay, found it. Okay. Um, so Stefan was always like so insistent that he didn't see Caroline that way, and it's not because the feelings came out of nowhere like some people think. It's actually the best slow burn I have ever seen and the best friends to lovers I have ever seen. They did it so beautifully, and it just feels so natural. Like they just, you can just see them going from being strangers to slowly becoming friends to becoming best friends, and they rely on each other more than anybody else to becoming something more. And yes, Caroline noticed her feelings first. That doesn't mean that Stefan didn't love her as much as she loved him. It just means he was more afraid because he didn't really feel like he had anybody but Caroline. And I don't blame him for feeling that way. Um, so because of that, he didn't want to admit that he had feelings for her because something went wrong. He'll be losing his best friend, the only person he can rely on and trust, and that is legit canon because when he lost his memories, the only person he felt like he could trust was Caroline. There was even a whole thing about that when he said that Caroline's gonna check up on him and he does trust her. That's almost word for word. So yeah, um, but like it says, Caroline, you and me is never gonna happen. Of course it does, because I don't think about her that way. She's my friend. And then when he lost his memories, he's like, "You're much hotter in person." Because deep down he had those feelings, he just didn't want to admit it because he didn't want to lose her. And he says he doesn't dance, but he always finds a reason to dance for her, and he's always the one asking her too. So like, we're gonna get more of that here right now in a minute. Okay. Um, Elena actually made a comment one time saying, "You hate dancing. I usually have to beg you." But literally every dance, he finds a reason to ask her for whatever reason. Um, in the first dance, the one where he had lost his memories, I think that's when that was. The time during the party when Elena didn't have her humanity, and I love that scene so much because she's like, Caroline's like, and you're you, and so and he's like, so I should just grab a girl, put her over my shoulder, and take her to the dance floor, and she's like, um, just take your own advice and have fun, and then he's like, okay, so he grabs her, picks her over her shoulder, takes her to the dance floor, and then like you never see Stefan smile with Elena or anyone else the way he does with Caroline. It's like there's just this natural thing between them. They were so comfortable with each other and knew each other so well, and they could always make each other smile and laugh when nobody else could. And that's why I'll never understand why people don't realize that they're literally perfect for each other, because nobody makes them happier than they make each other. And there's also the dance when Helena still didn't have her humanity and stole Caroline's dress, and she had to get a new one. And yeah, that's an iconic scene. Um, and every time Stefan is hurt or in danger, she freaks out. She's the only one that notices half the time when he's upset, and she gets so scared of losing him. And this is before even she realized she had feelings for him, and because she loves him so much, and I feel like a lot of times she's the only one that cares about him in this deep matter. Like that time when Enzo killed him, and then they were trying to bring people back anyways with using Bonnie, and so Elena and Damon walked in, and she was like, "Please tell me there's a way to bring him back," because she was a mess. And I'm sorry, but Elena and Damon, even Damon, didn't even seem to. Yeah, they were shocked and stuff, but they didn't even really seem to care as much. Like they were so busy with other things, and it's like Stefan legit just died, and you don't even know if you can bring him back. So you think you'd care a little bit, even if you know you can bring him back. Like just seeing him dead, you think would upset them a little bit more, but it really didn't. Um, and I know a lot of people are like, because I'm gonna get into the part about them being the healthiest ship, because they go through problems, but that doesn't mean that they are toxic. Every ship in real life goes through some problems, but it's the fact that they're the only ship that doesn't have any real toxicity ever. Yes, they had their fights. They were angry at each other. He left her, but he did that because he thought he didn't fit in her new life because she was a mother now, even though she didn't originally ask for it. Now she doesn't want to lose that. She loves her twins. Um, and there's also the time when he basically abandoned her in season 5, I think it was. And but he even explains that he knows she's the one person that would sit with him and be with him and let him cry, and he didn't want to cry, so he pushed her away because he wanted to shut off, and he knew that he couldn't with Caroline because she has this vibe about her, this aroma, this aura that he can't run from. So he needed to walk away and be away from her, so that because he didn't want to feel it, and he knew that she just her being around her would make him feel everything because it's who she is. And yeah, so that wasn't being toxic, that was just normal issues. Like it's not like Damon killing Elena's brother twice, or Enzo I think tried to kill Bonnie once. I mean, after they finally got together, they weren't toxic at all. But there was things before their feelings happened where they were toxic. Um, and I mean, Steph and Elena had toxic moments, and um, Caroline and Tyler, I think, might have. That one might not have as many toxic moments as some couples. But yeah, so like they had their issues, and yeah, they fought, and they even broke up, and but it was all just normal, fighting or relationship issues. It wasn't anything really toxic about them. Um, so another scene I love is when they were I think they were engaged. This is right before he was gonna go, and he first of all sold a soul to the devil for Caroline's twins. Like that's he did that for her. And then uh their last Christmas before he would be gone for like what, a year or something, um was ruined. So he grabs her, didn't say anything to her, and then kisses her, and she's like, you could have kissed me anywhere. And then they look up and the mistletoe's there because he wanted to have one of his things that he had wanted to do that day with her done, which was kissing her under the mistletoe, which is just so adorable. The fact that he had a list of things he wanted to do with her this Christmas, and one of them was kissing her under the mistletoe. Like that's just so sweet. He never did anything like that with Elena. Um, every time she's sad or whatever, he always holds her. There was the time when he didn't have any memories, and she was upset about like Bonnie and everything, and then um, he grabs her hand. He's like, um, "You're always there for me. You it seems like you're always there for me, so I want to be here for you." And it's like, even without his memories, he was drawn to her. Okay, that's one thing I always say about for people who have seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer. As much as I love Xander and Anya and Buffy and Spike, to me, my favorite ship, Tara and Willow, are the real soulmates of the show, because there was a whole episode called Tabula Rasa where everyone lost their memories, and they were the only couple still drawn to each other without any memories of who they are, who each other are, and everything. So it made me feel like they were real soulmates because they were drawn to each other no matter what. And same thing happened here. Yeah, Caroline might have her memories, but Stefan didn't. He didn't have any memories about who he was, about who Caroline was. But out of everybody, it was her he felt like he could trust and rely on, and her he was drawn to despite everything. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know who Elena or Damon was, but it was Caroline he was drawn to. Caroline he trusted despite not knowing anybody or himself. Like, you think he wouldn't trust anything or anyone, but he trusts her and everything she said. She could say anything and he would just trust her word because there was just something about her that he couldn't deny. There was the time when Caroline realized her mom was dying and he holds her. The time when she was like, the time with the she was trying to find the bear because she was just losing it. She just needed something to work for one time because she's a control freak who was losing control, and she just needed something. So she needed a win, so she was looking for that bear that she buried forever ago. And um and then it ends up, ripping and stuff, and he ends up holding her. Another thing I want to bring up before I continue of this point is that I don't think this was shown during this episode. I think this was later on when it was showing flashbacks of him hanging out with her mom, and she wanted to find like a sewing kit or something to sew up the bear, even though it's probably a lost cause because he knew how much it meant to her. And I'm like, see, don't tell me that he did love Caroline more than he ever loved Elena, because I believe he loved Elena. I believe he did love her very much, but I do think over time he ended up loving Caroline more than he ever loved Elena, because he never smiled half as much, he never laughed half as much. I mean, every time Caroline cries, his face, he looks so like he's in so much pain because he hates to see her sad, and he thinks so highly of her. And yeah, so like I believe 100% that he loved Caroline more than he ever loved Elena. I'll get more into that later, but yeah, I just think that's so sweet because he never did end it like that with Elena. There was the time when the during their wedding, the like house or something blew up, and she her twins and Bonnie were in there, so she was freaking out. He had to pull her back and hold her as she cried. Like, he always is just there to hold her as she cries. It's really sweet. There's also that time at the dance where she's like, I think someday you'll meet someone new and you'll fall madly in love and you'll move on without even realizing it. And then he repeats that in his uh, wedding vow, which I love. It means after all these years, because that would have been, I want to say, it was with Humanity Lives Elena, right? So I think that was season 4. I think that was season 4. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Humanity lists Elena with season 4, so I'm gonna say list season 4, and then they don't get married until season 8. So and there's also like a time jump, so there's like so many years in between those two scenes. The fact that he remembered what she said word for word kills me. Like, uh, she said, "You told me once that I would fall in love, that I would fall in love with madly in love without even realizing it, and that's what happened. Day by day, bit by bit, year by year, with you." I just think that's such a beautiful um, wedding vow, and because he did, like, it's so obvious if you actually watch the show with your eyes open and watch them and watch their relationship from season 1 to season 8. Like, I don't see how people can't watch it and see how they fell in love and how much of a slow progression it was. Like, I'm a sucker for a slow burn, and I feel like we don't get slow burns enough, but they are a slow burn. And like, yes, you have to endure several seasons before they even kiss or realize they had feelings at all, and it took a long time. But then they were finally happy together. Of course, that gets ripped away from us because we deserve them to live forever, but no. Anyways, moving on from that. And I like this. It says he found friendship in Lexi and love in Elena, but he found both in Caroline because they were friends and they were best friends, and but they also fell in love. And because there's one time he even says, um, "I think you can be friends with someone and be in love with someone, but I don't think you can be both." But then his relationship with Caroline proved him wrong. Um, he said he'll always come back for her, which he did. Of course, he does end up leaving, but that's because he thought he had no choice. Um, I know you don't deserve. I know you don't always believe this, but you deserve to be happy, Stefan. Please be happy. Which I think Valerie said that to him. And then, what does he do? He goes to Caroline because she makes him happy. Um, Damon telling Stefan there's a girl waiting outside for you because she was always there for him. And then I think Alaric says this to Caroline. She says you should be happy. I mean you deserve everything you want, and what she wanted was Stefan, so she was able to be with him. Um, I also like the in season 8 when they're talking about um I'll just read off what Caroline says to him. She says, "I remember the last time we were at this carnival. I didn't know how I could possibly deal with an eternity of being a vampire, and you told me the only way to get through it is to tell yourself that you're strong enough every day." And that's another thing. After all these years, and this was even a bigger gap because this would have been season 2, and then early season 2, and then this would have been season 8, and she remembered what he said to her, and I love it because they just always remember what they say to each other after so many years. And he always knows what to do to make her feel better, or would do anything just to make sure she's okay. Like, I love an underrated scene. At least I think that's underrated because I never hear anyone talk about it. Was when he rescues her from the werewolves. I think it was in season 2, and she says she's okay, she's not a good little Caroline anymore, she'll be fine. But then he comes back to check on her, and she's like, "Oh, I'm fine." He's like, "Well, just in case." And then I brought some backup, and then Elena and Bonnie show up. And I just think that's such a beautiful moment. I do wish we got a deleted scene of Stefan going to Elena and Bonnie saying, "Hey, this happened to Caroline, she needs you," because I don't know why, but I just really want that scene. But the fact that he did that, that he knew that there was something, that Caroline was upset even though she was claiming she was okay, and that he went to get her two best friends because he knew without her saying anything that that's what she needed, it's just so beautiful. And this was season 2, okay, when he was with Elena, but he still knew Caroline this much, and they weren't even as close as they would become in the next couple seasons. Um, and then in season 8, I think this is early season 8, when when she moves in with him, and he started working on like this room and stuff, and he was like, "Oh, this is where the girls' beds will go. This is I have dresser. This is their dresser. Their beds are coming soon. Blah blah blah." And she didn't realize that that's what he was doing. That he was making a bedroom for her girls because he knew that she would want them to be with her sometimes because they're her daughters. And yeah, he wasn't sure how this whole thing would work at first, and which is why he left. But he's accepting that these girls are important to him, and he's gonna find a way to be a part of their lives because he wants to be a part of her life. And the fact that she was upset and stuff, and he made this room for her girls, like he was thinking of a future with Caroline, which would include her daughters. It's just so beautiful. Um, he was there for her during her mother's death more than anybody else. She said, "You can go if you have somewhere else you need to be." He says, "I don't," and he helped her have like this one last memory with her mom, and it's just so beautiful and so sad. But he was there for her when I feel like no one else really was. Um, Here's some quotes that I really like. It says, "It's not gonna happen. Uh, and obviously it does. I promise I will not let anything happen to you. You don't have to pretend with me. I won't let you lose control. Um, you have me." And when Stefan was telling Damon that he thinks it's something better. And this is another proof that he loved, like, yes, he loved Elena, but I think he will always love Elena, but I think at this point he loves Caroline more. And at this point, it's Caroline he wants. People's like, oh, once they break up, or if Elena decided to break up with Damien because she wanted to be with Stefan, he would dump Caroline. No, he wouldn't. Okay, that's his wife. That's who he loves. Okay, I've seen people who don't even ship them, who don't. On TikTok, people who don't even ship Stefan and Caroline, but it still said there's no way he's leaving his wife for Elena. And it's like, yes, those people get it. Like those are the people. Like, yes, you cannot like them, but still realize that he loves her and he's not gonna leave her for his ex. And his last thoughts were about Caroline, okay? He dies. He sees Elena because she's kind of in like the in between of life and death at the moment. And he could have said literally anything to her. Caroline never has to know what he said to her. He could have said, "I have always loved you. It has always been you." Blah blah blah. Like Stellina shippers think he believes. But no, he doesn't say any. He doesn't really say anything about Lena or his relationship with him. He says, "Tell Caroline I hurt her and I will love her forever too." Because at the end of the day, it was Caroline he married, it was Caroline he loved, and he wanted her to know that. So he told his ex, who everyone's insisting that he was still in love with by this time, to tell his wife that he loves her and he will always love her. And yeah, people still think that Stefan didn't love Caroline? Like, I seriously don't get it when we get scenes like this. Moving on. This is gonna be a long video. It's already 20 minutes. Um, Here's just a bunch of times he contradicted himself. "I don't really dance, but he always dances with Caroline." When he says you can either be friends with someone or be in love with them, "I don't think you can be both." But then he gets that with Elena Caroline, which I already mentioned. Then Stefan in early season 2 saying, "You think I'm too serious," but he always manages to crack a joke or laugh or be happy around Caroline, which he never did with Elena. Sorry, Selena's. Bonnie telling Caroline, "I can't talk to you, you don't listen," but Stefan always goes to Caroline, always, when he needs someone or when he needs to talk or vent or whatever. It's always Caroline he calls. Even pretty early on, I feel like. I feel like he could always talk to her more than he could ever talk to Elena. Stefan saying, "I'm a Ripper doesn't stop," and Caroline telling Stefan, "This isn't you, you're not this person," and Stefan saying, "I don't hug," and then him hugging Caroline because he tends to hug Caroline a lot whenever he's comforting her or when she's comforting him or whenever they're just hug. Caroline was the reason why Stefan wanted to live. Like, he was kind of in a really bad place when he became human and got his humanity back, but he realized because of Caroline that he wanted to live. Because he wanted to live for her. Here, another thing is that Caroline understands Stefan more than anyone. Okay? There was the time when uh, Damon was like, I don't remember what it, like, he was like, but she says, "This isn't who you are, Stefan. You love your brother, and I know you'd rather die than let him go." And then Caroline talking to him on the phone when he was about to die. She says, "I need you to know that I understand and I love you." She understands him in a way I don't think anyone ever has, and she understood that he loved his brother and that he would die for his brother, which he does. Um, Stefan telling Caroline, "I promise you I will not let anything happen to you." Caroline telling Stefan, "Come to me whenever you want and I won't let you lose control." Stefan telling Caroline, "You have me. Look, you were there for me last night. Sounds like you're always there for me, so let me be there for you, okay?" And and then Stefan to Caroline, "Then do me a favor, remind me we were friends." I just love some of these quotes. Like, they're always there for each other. Even Caroline's mom knew there was something going on. Like when you got that flashback of the two of them talking, I mentioned earlier with the whole bear. She says, you're really good for her. I hope you're a really good friend to her. I hope you become something more than that someday." And I love because he's not even surprised, and he's like, I it's such a mess right now. I want when we get together, so he knew that was gonna happen. He wanted things to be perfect, and she's like, "You might be waiting for a while." He's like, "I'm a patient man." And like later on he does end up doing a whole speech about how he will wait for her, and this was like before he said any of that. He was like already willing to wait to be with her. Like that man is in love. But Liz tells him, "When I'm gone, gonna need you. Make her smile." And he said he promised, and he always managed to make her smile. Caroline always finds a reason, like so many different times, to say, "And you're you," because she thinks he's so amazing, and I just love it. Um, like I said, Stefan can always make Caroline laugh. Um, da da da. Caroline always knew something was gonna happen. Let's be real. In the very first episode, she said they were planning a June wedding, and then I love the scene when Caroline finds out that Stefan killed Enzo, and the first time he killed Enzo, and he was like, Caroline was a bit jealous. I think this is before she knew she had feelings for Stefan, because Stefan was hanging around with Elena, and then Dame started getting jealous because I think they were broken up at the time or something. And then at the end of the episode, when Ghost Enzo tried to kill them all and all that fun stuff, she made a comment about like telling Elena and not telling her, and he says, "I didn't want you to think any less of me." So he admitted that he doesn't care what Elena thinks about him because he had no problem her knowing. He didn't want Caroline to know, and not because he trusts Elena more or anything. Quite the opposite. It's because he he didn't want Caroline to think any less of him, and because he cares about that. And by saying that, he pretty much was saying that he doesn't care what Elena thinks of him, but he does care what Caroline thinks of him, and that speaks volumes. Um, I like when Stefan tells Tyler, and this is pretty early on too, so this is before they get as close as they do. He says, "Look, about Caroline, no matter what her flaws are, when push comes to shove, you're gonna want that girl on your side," which says a lot. And I also love when he tells Elena when the two of them were stranded. He says, "If Caroline Forbes was here right now, we would both be laughing." He thinks so highly of her, and I just love it. And I also love when he calls her up and says, "You know how sometimes you feel crazy and you call me and I tell you that you're not crazy?" And she's like, "But most of the time I am." And I just really love it because like she always calls him up. Like I mentioned earlier, how he always calls her up. She always calls him up. And then there's the parallel of Caroline saying, "For not treating me like a crazy person," and Stefan's like, because that's how I felt these past few days." Um, and then like when Caroline was kidnapped and they shot at her, Stefan's like, "Hurt her again and you're dead." And then when they were doing that whole memory thing with Stefan, and she's like, "Do it again and I'll kill you too," because they will kill for each other, which is so sweet. Um, And now here's the speech I was mentioning earlier when I mentioned about him saying he'll wait for her. You were by my side when I needed a friend. You made me laugh. You made me dance. You told me I'd find love again. And then he says he'll wait for her, and I just think that's so beautiful. Um, Literally everybody knows it. The amount of people that's like, because you love Caroline. Like, literally everybody do it. So I don't know what fans are going on about it. She said, I'm never the one. And he said, Here never gets the girl, right? But then they end up getting married. Here, I really like this. Okay, this is about Steroline versus Chloroline, which is very toxic. Chloroline is very toxic. But it says, number one, Stefan and Caroline have known each other for a long time, spent many hours talking and actually getting to know each other. Two, Stefan never stabbed Caroline or had her bitten in order to act like a hero. Number three, Stefan has been there for her when she needed someone the most. Number four, her feelings for Stefan are love, not lust. If she loved Klaus, she wouldn't have let him go because Caroline doesn't give up on on who she loves. Number five, her first kiss with Klaus turned into a lustful and tacky sex scene, and her first kiss with Stefan was sweet, perfect, and loving. I think my debate is over. Steroline wins, and by the way, I used to ship them both, but discovered Stefan was the much better choice, even though I'm also a fan of Klaus. Steroline wins. I agree, 100%. Because I actually used to ship Chloroline too. Um, but then when it started getting obvious that there was something going on between Stefan and Caroline, and then Klaus also leaves the show around the same time. Um, and then the more I rewatched, the more I realized how toxic they actually are. Like Klaus was supposed to be in love with her, but he also stabbed her and then bit her, knowing she was gonna die to hurt Tyler. Like what people always loves the line Tyler was your first love, I'll be your last, blah blah blah. That's not actually as cute as you think. Least I don't think it is anymore. And it reminds me of when Caroline told Tyler, or I think she told Tyler, she was like, um, yeah, because it was when they did their last breakup. She was like, um, love me more than you hate him, or something like that. Because basically Tyler hated Klaus more than he loved Caroline, but he had every right. Like, I don't get the hate on Tyler. Like, he's not one of my favorite characters, but like he's actually done nothing wrong. Apparently, he was a lot worse in the book, but I haven't actually read the book. But you're going by show, he's not actually as bad as people think, and he's actually not as problematic as like Klaus or Damon or something. Um, but anyways, um, but it's the same thing can be said for Klaus. Like at the end of the day, Klaus hated Tyler more than he loved Caroline. Because if he didn't, he wouldn't have stabbed her and then bit her knowing she would die. Yes, he did end up saving her, but you can't give him credit for that when he legit is the reason why she almost died in the first place. So, eh, yeah, I think that just cancels the whole thing out. Like, no. This, I love this, okay? It's about, uh, so, listen to this. It says, so this is all with Stefan without Elena. The first half is Stefan, when he's supposed to be in love with Elena, and then Stefan in season 8 had not, or 7, I think, 7 or 8, I think it was 8, not having humanity, and, but having feelings for Caroline. So, um, protecting Elena is your problem now, which Stefan said to Damon. Stefan threw away Elena's necklace in the middle of nowhere, and on his way to kill Elena, just a stupid human girl, which is what he said. Now this is with him and Caroline, also no humanity, and shake him, but his instinct was to protect her. So even without his humanity, he protected her. Even when Caroline was the one who broke the engagement, he kept the ring until his next proposal. So don't tell me he didn't have feelings for her when he had no humanity, because if he didn't, he would have legit just threw that out. But he kept it. And then hated the dance, but still kept the tradition of always asking her during the dance, which is also beautiful. Come in. Sorry, that was my brother. But yeah, I think I have my points with the whole humanity thing. Um, I like what she said to him when he realized that she had feelings for him. And this is when he still denied his own feelings. And she's like, maybe it's because I thought you were worth having a thing for. Because when I woke up as a vampire, you told me I would get through it, and I did. Because when I watched Elena move on with your brother, I couldn't imagine why she would let anyone like you go. Because you were practically my best friend. Because I trusted you. And yeah, so. And I also like when she says, I think a Salvatore would look a lot better in a tux. And by that I mean Stefan. Because she was always on Stefan's side, no matter what. Um, Another point that at this point he loved Caroline more than he loved Elena, and it's when he got marked, he protected Damon when she was like having just had the twins or about to have the twins or whatever. Damon was being attacked, and um, he ends up saving Damon, and he got marked, and then what flashes through his mind? Caroline, and pretty much only Caroline. Okay, so, like, if he loved Elena the way people say he did in season 7 and 8, then he would have thought of Elena. At least half of the images would have been Elena and then maybe Caroline. But no, he thought of Caroline because what he wanted was to be able to be with his wife who just had babies or about to have babies and to build a life with her because that's what he wanted because it was her she loved. He loved. My bad. But you get what I'm saying. um, so yeah. Um, they've gone through their ups and downs, but it was still not toxic like some couples. They just went through normal relationship problems. They laughed together, they cried together, and they suffered together. True love doesn't happen right away. It's an ever-growing process. It develops after you've gone through many ups and downs, when you've suffered together, cried together, laughed together. So yeah. Um, I like when she told him, I think we both knew I never really hated you. Um, Stefan always promises that he's not gonna let anything happen to her. I like what he said right before he died, and he says, "I have to move fast, and I can't do that unless I know you're safe because he needs his wife to be okay." I think that's beautiful. I also like when, right before they have sex for the first real time, because they did technically sleep together when they didn't have any humanity. But this is the first time since they're actually dating. And she says, "You and I have had more history in the last 5 years than most people have in a lifetime." Blah, I can't speak today. Um, and yeah, because their slow burn is so beautiful, and I still don't understand how people can watch the show and not see it. Um, I like what he says to her when he finally admits that he likes her in that way. And he's like, I like you, Caroline. I don't know when it became more than friendship, but it did, and it scared me, so I pushed it away because that's what he does. He pushes away things that scares him. I still think the reason why he was so scared. I mean, that's why he pushed Caroline away in season 5. But still think the reason why he was so scared to admit they had real feelings for her because she was the only person he truly could count on. I mean, yes, he loved his brother more than anything, but I feel like he didn't feel like he could count on his brother and rely on him the way he could with Caroline. Every time a problem rise, they both the first instinct was to call each other and to make sure they were okay and they could always talk to each other. And like when it was revealed that Caroline had sex with Klaus, she went to Stefan. And whenever Stefan was afraid after the whole drowning situation, he went to Caroline. And they go to each other because they rely on each other and they trust each other in a way that I don't think they trust or rely on anybody else, no matter how much they love each other, love that other person. So yeah. Um, I love how there were literally hints before Stefan finally admitted that he had feelings for her. Like there were so many hints. I think it starts to really become. I think it becomes obvious in season 5. But if you pay attention in seasons 3 and 4, like there are hints too. Even season 2, because season 2 is when they started developing their relationship because they saw potential in the bathroom scene, and then after that is when they started building them up to become something more. Like they have known since season 2, so this was not a I still don't understand how people think it's like a quick last minute thing. I don't know. But Lexi saw it. She made a comment one time, like being replaced by another blonde, and then he's like, and then she's like, "Don't give me that look," and because that was a little hint. But then later on, she says more about it. She says, Caroline. He's like, what about Caroline? She's like, wow, you really don't see it, do you? Because for real, like he was the only one that didn't see it, and but I love how even Lexi saw it and she wanted them together. Like in 171, yeah, 171 years on Earth, Caroline was the only woman that Stephen proposed to, and twice because he wanted to marry her. The only constant I had was Caroline. Like I said, the only person you could rely on and trust. Um, Elena saying, "You guys look good together." Um, and then later on, when Liz asks where's Stefan, she's like, "He's actually busy flirting with your daughter because everybody could see it." Uh, oh, here's that thing I mentioned when with Lexi saying, "I see I've been replaced by another blonde." He's like, "Why'd you give me that look for?" She's like, "She's cute," and he's like, "Do not start." Like she always saw something between them. Um, And there's that whole thing with Catherine saying, "Have you two ever, you know?" And she's like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Oh, come on, you know." And Caroline's like, "Oh my God, Catherine." Um, and then Catherine once again saying, "I'm gonna need you to find out from Matt if Caroline has feelings for Stefan because it was obvious." Um, Damon telling Tyler Stefan's not an option. He's off doing some research project with Caroline. Don't worry, Wolf Boy. I'm sure they're just friends. Because once again, they've been hinted at since season 2, but people still don't seem to understand that. Um, Enzo, I think, said this to Caroline. Maybe you just can't stand the thought of putting Stefan's life in anyone's hands but your own. Real. And then, I just mentioned this too when Lexi says Caroline, and he's like, "What about Caroline?" She's like, "Wow, you really don't see it, do you?" And then later on in the same episode, she's like, "I would hate for you to miss your come back to life window before you even had your first date with Caroline because she saw it. She knew there was something between them." But yeah, that was the last point I had to make, and this video has gone a lot longer than I thought. So maybe I'll do a follow-up video one of these days, and after I do my actual research for my relationship timeline video, and I can go more into depths about proof that they are the best ship and healthiest ship. But I think I made my point clear on here. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment how you feel about Steroline. If there's any points that I missed, then I could always do a follow-up video about more reasons why they are the best and healthiest ship. So I will try to guys below in the comments. Until next time.